parents. So here we are with Kenda, who we don't hear very often because you've been busy with other things, but you're back, more or less.
Yeah,
So I'm just talking to everybody and asking them about their sort of history with horror. It was actually Brady's idea that we should have a conversation, but because it's so hard to get everybody together, I figured I'd just talk to each person individually.
sure.
So, the basic thing is like, what scared you? What was the first thing you remember scaring you the most? Whether it doesn't have to be a movie, it could be TV or an
Yeah,
image or music or can you remember the earliest?
I can. I've been thinking about this all day today, and
Oh no, I didn't mean to do that to you.
um, I've always had super terrible nightmares. So for me, the farthest back that I can remember, one of the first nightmares I had was when I was about 3 years old, and I remember it very vividly. My grandma was taking me to the swimming pool to go swimming at night, and I just remember it being pitch dark. And you know how when a pool is lit up at night, it can have kind of like a weird yellowish look. And
Yeah.
so I remember her taking my hand and leading me down to the water, and the water was like yellow syrup, and there's all these dead bodies at the bottom. And then my grandma was trying to drown me in this pool of these dead bodies. So
God,
that's what I remember from being 3. And when I bring that up to people, they're like, "Did you have some really messed up, abusive childhood?" And I'm like, "No, I just have a really psycho imagination, I guess." So,
you were three?
yeah.
Because I don't. I feel like the earliest nightmare memory I have isn't that early. I don't even think I can remember anything from three. So you remember it so vividly that all those parts, I mean, were in it. I mean, you remember it up to this day really vividly.
Yeah, I just remember it because I was so terrified when I woke up. And for a long time, I didn't trust my grandma. And, she was obviously hurt by that. But
Oh, wow.
um, I'm not sure if it was recurring. I don't know if that's why I remember it so well because to me, it's weird that I do. But most of my super vivid, most horrible nightmares I remember pretty well. They're almost like movies in my head, so I remember them. So that's, I guess, the first thing I remember that really scared me.
But you wouldn't necessarily say that that was from uh, those images weren't taken from other places, like a movie or a book that you read or
Yeah.
anything like that, or that was read to you or anything like that.
No, not that I can
Not
think of. 'Cause
either.
my parents were super protective. Like,
Oh,
my
really?
mom wouldn't even let us watch the show Rugrats growing up. Or, yeah, I know. I love Rugrats now, but
What
she,
was
I guess,
what
saw
was her
something.
issue with Rugrats?
I think she might have just seen something at one point in the show because you know how they do a lot of satirical stuff and stuff that can be considered more adult, like every once in a
Hmm.
while. But kids don't get that.
Right.
So part of why that show is so interesting and fun is because it plays with adult humor. I guess she saw something that she was just like, "Oh nope, she's not watching that."
Wow, I didn't realize that you grew up in such a strict environment.
Yeah, I'm not sure if strict's the right word because by the time I was in the 4th grade, my mom gave me permission. She's like, you know what? I trust your judgment. You know my rules. I'm pretty much giving you free reign of the television. And I was like, sweet.
Oh, wow. But were
So
you able to rent things?
um,
Were,
she would like we would go to the movie store together, and she would let me pick things out. Like I always usually wanted the horror movies, and she's like, let's see how bad this looks." And if usually it wasn't something like rated X, she'd be like, "Well, let's give it a try. Your little sister can't watch it though." I'm like, "Okay."
oh, wow. So she was letting you watch horror movies pretty early on.
Yeah, my dad was the main proponent of that because my mom was almost so protective because my dad didn't protect us at all. Like, I remember one of the first horror movies I got really excited about was Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow,
Hmm.
Johnny Depp and
Mm-hmm.
Christina Ricci. I wanted to see that movie so bad, and my mom's like, "No, no, that's not appropriate. There's
Really?
headshoting." And I was probably like 9, 8 or 9, and my dad just rented it and brought it home one day. He's like, "Hey, want to watch this with me? I know you're talking about it." I was like, "Yes." And
And did it upset you?
there was some parts I remember vividly, like, "Wow, that was really terrifying." But I actually really enjoyed it. Like, I liked being scared, so I was a weird kid.
No, I don't think it's that weird.
Yeah, so
Certainly not weird amongst all the
amongst us.
members of What Doesn't Kill Us, the Fight or Flight Network.
Yeah.
Was that movie PG or R?
I want to say it was R because
Really?
they
My,
show heads being chopped off
I guess
and
that yeah, I don't know the rating system very well, but I guess that puts it out of PG. But it does stick. It sticks somewhat close to the novel or the
Mhm.
short story, which is scary in and of itself. You know, it's like before movies, there were books and there were other ways to be terrified. So
Yeah.
would that be the first movie that really got to you, or that was the first horror movie that you remember
That
being really excited about seeing?
Yeah, that was the first one I enjoyed. I do remember stumbling upon my dad watching, I want to say it was the new House on Haunted Hill that was made in the 90s, and being just absolutely terrified of
Mm,
the imagery that I was seeing because I walked in the middle of the movie and I don't remember the context, but I remember some guy being shoved in a tank and he was getting like a black bag pulled over his head,
oh God.
and then like he was drowning and then something swam up to him, like some otherworldly creature swam up to him while he was trying to put the bag off his head, and I was like, screw this, I'm out, bye dad.
So he would have let you watch, but if your mother was there, she wouldn't have.
Yeah,
Hmm.
precisely. She'd be like, I don't think you should be watching this, you should go somewhere else, go play.
House on Haunted Hill. I don't know the '90s one. Is that? God, there's so many House and Hill and haunted
I know.
movies.
It's where, because the original was like the 50s and 60s, and it was a rich person who invited
Yeah.
a
That's the
bunch
one
of
with
people.
Vincent Price. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Now that one, yeah. So this is a remake of that. But obviously for the torture porn generation with people getting horribly killed or
Yeah, and that's one of my main huge weird phobias that don't make sense that I've had ever since I was a little kid is being in a claustrophobic space and drowning. So I think seeing that on top of that weird, like, non-logical fear that I already had made it way worse. I was like, no, this is not okay.
How did you react to It Follows?
Oh, when they were in the pool,
Yeah, that whole scene at the pool.
I actually was okay with that because it was really wide open and you can
Yeah,
tell it was shallow water.
yeah, it was different. Yeah.
And it's a funny fear to have considering like
You
my
work at
profession.
you work at a pool. That's how I know
Yeah,
you.
but I used to have nightmares about like being in an elevator that started filling with water, and
Oh my God.
so like I have a hard time watching shipwreck movies sometimes because there's always that scene where people are like against the ceiling, and I'm like, ah.
Wow. So this goes back to that dream that you had about your grandmother. You said it was like a pool
Probably.
of yellow slime or yellow
It was like
thick
thick
gelatinous.
syrup, I guess. I don't know.
Wow.
It looked like water, and then it would like suck you in. It was gross.
Wow, that is wild. So have you seen The Last Wave?
No, I
Oh
haven't.
yeah, well, that you definitely want to. You should check that out because they do it in a really smart way. They don't do it to try to scare you. Well, that would be. It's a more intellectual take on the whole drowning water flood thing.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, it's one of the ones I recommended for one of the 31 Days of Horror weeks. So uh, have you watched House on Haunted Hill since then?
You know, I haven't, and I bet it would not
Yeah.
impact me nearly as much.
Yeah,
'Cause
because you've seen a lot
yeah,
since then.
yeah.
What would
Like
you
there's still. Oh, sorry. Go
go
on.
ahead? No, you talk.
I was gonna say there's probably still some scenes that might hit me a certain way or be more impactful than I would expect, but I definitely don't think I'd run from the room.
Right. Is there anything that would make you run from the room now that you just would
Yes.
turn off? And what would it be, or what kind of thing, or a specific
Explicit,
movie that made you shut it off?
anything with like explicit torture or explicit like graphic rape, I can't, like,
Yeah.
I don't even want to look at it. I don't want to deal with it, and I will leave the room. And I've had to do that in a theater before because it was
What
kind of unexpected.
what movie?
It was Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Oh,
Yeah,
he managed to put torture and rape into Halloween. What a
yeah.
genius!
I It was actually a very good movie, to
Oh,
be
really? I haven't seen
brutally
any of
honest.
his. Yeah.
But I don't think I could watch it again, even today. Like, my boyfriend and I at the time snuck into the theater because we were both not 17, and it was rated 17. And so I think we were like 15. And we went in and we're like super excited about this because we're both big horror nerds. And then about, I don't know, a third of the way into the movie, there's a scene where it's about young Michael Myers. So him as a child, and he's already showing sociopathic tendencies, and he's got little rats that he tortures. And I
That's the
guess,
scene that would make me walk out. I can't handle
yeah,
animal
nope,
cruelty.
yeah. He gets chased into this forest on the edge of town by bullies from school, and you're like, they're screaming at him, "Your sister's a slut, your mom's a slut, blah blah blah," and he's like, "Leave me alone." And then he just snaps and he takes a tree branch and just starts beating one viciously. And it's super graphic. It shows everything. And the kid starts whimpering and crying like, "Please, please stop. Why are you doing this?" And I'm just like, "Oh, I can't do this." Like, it was just so pathetic to
And that was
watch.
the scene that made you walk out.
There was that where I was like started crying,
Oh,
and then I
wow.
like kept watching, and then it just got worse.
Yeah.
Like, he slowly and methodically kills everyone in his family in pretty
Wait a
visceral
minute.
ways.
That doesn't fit with the Halloween story, does it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about the
I don't know if he
universe.
stuck to the original, if he was doing a prequel to the original, but I don't think he killed his whole family. It's been so long since I've seen that. Viewers might be screaming at the TV saying, "What kind of horror fan am I?" I don't even remember. Maybe he did kill his whole family. So,
Yeah. Huh.
uh, would you watch that Halloween now?
I think it would help that I can expect what's coming.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I don't think I would get any enjoyment out of it. Uh, I would have to. I would struggle with removing myself enough to appreciate all the art that is in there, and the makeup
Mm,
effects and the blood effects
right,
and the cinematography and camera angles, because it
right.
was a solid movie. The storyline
Mm.
was well put together, but everything else on top of that, I was like, oh, I don't know if I could do this. So I
Well,
don't know.
didn't you watch Last House on the Left, or didn't Cassandra make you watch Last House on the Left?
She did
Because that's
finally
a
convince me to watch it. She told me she would tell me when the rape scene was coming, so
right.
that helped. And it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it would be.
Mm. Don't
So
you
I could
think?
handle it.
Don't you think now things are never as bad as you think they're going to be?
Yeah, I don't know if that means I'm becoming desensitized or
I think it's just getting older, and you're able
maybe.
to see these are actors, and you
Yeah.
know Brady says he's thinking all the time, no matter how gory it is. Or this was my interpretation of what he said, was that he's always thinking, how could this be made better, which I thought was
Yeah.
interesting, better cinematically. So he's always kind of thinking it in those terms, which, yeah. And I'm usually, and well, everybody has a different approach, and of course it depends on which film. But
Mhm.
I guess if I don't know, it's hard for me to be scared. It's hard for me to find something that's really going to scare me. Being repulsed is different from being frightened, I guess. Do you feel like it's easy for you to, what kind of movies would make you frightened or scared and not just
Uh,
disgusted or,
I feel the same way. It's hard for me to be scared. I'm much more likely to be disturbed
yeah,
or so empathetic that it's hard for me to continue watching.
right. If somebody
But
that you empathize with is being sort of sadistically dealt with,
yeah,
or yeah, yeah.
because I'm a huge empathizer, so that's I don't know why I became a horror fan, but
I know it is
wrong
funny.
genre.
It is funny. So that dream, and then the next thing you remember was not being able to watch. Uh, what
House
was
on
your father watch? A House on Haunted Hill, the '90s remake, and then Halloween. You had to leave.
Yeah.
What was the next thing that really got to you, but that you were able to maybe see all the way through?
Oh, I actually have something from before Halloween, and it's gonna sound really dumb because it was on the Disney Channel.
These are good ones. These are the
So
good ones because these are the ones where it's like you really find out what disturbs the person, because it's not supposed to be disturbing, right?
yeah,
And
I think it was supposed to be like a scary movie, but it was a
right,
Disney scary
right,
movie,
right.
and it was called Boogeyman, and it came out. I was probably about 7 or 8,
Oh, you were really
And
young. Okay.
the whole storyline is supposedly that when kids forget about their imaginary friends and they grow up, the imaginary friends become these bitter
Oh my
monsters.
god. What
Yeah.
kind of a mess? That's Disney saying you need to keep buying our products. You need to continue to buy our crap and watch our
Um,
movies until you're old, or it's gonna bite you in the ass. I'm sorry, that's just so
oh, I
funny.
think you froze.
So so tell me, this was a made for TV thing, or
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. Basically, I I don't remember what happened. Like this, it's a teenage girl, and she has a boogeyman that's been haunting her under her bed. And whenever something is about to happen, there'd be a light that would glow from under the bed, and then you'd see like the most disgusting hand with like long nails just kind of crawl up her bed sheets like this, and like it was just waiting. And I was always like, "Oh my God, there's something under my bed!" And
that's scary for the Disney Channel. You're right.
yeah, and it could like control inanimate objects. So the girl
Oh
would like
wow,
collect dolls, and all their heads would turn and follow her. She walked around her room, and so as a
wow.
kid, that freaked the crap out of me because I collected porcelain dolls, and at the time I shared a room with my little sister, so I always made her sleep on the bottom, and I slept on the top bunk, and I was like, that way, if anything's under there, it's gonna eat you before it gets to me. It'll be full.
How old was
Good.
she?
She was 3 years younger than me, so she was about 4.
Oh God, and she just didn't have the power to say no to you.
No, funnily enough, she likes horror movies now, though, so it's
Oh
okay.
really? Oh,
Yeah,
so is it a family? You said your dad was into it.
he actually is a big baby, but he watched them more often.
Wait a minute. What do you mean he's a big baby?
He bites all his nails off. He can't watch them anymore because he bites his nail down to like the quick watching horror movies and he freaks out. Like I, I couldn't watch a horror movie with him. He would irritate me. He'd be like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" Like, yeah,
Wait, he used to be a horror fan and now he responds like that?
yeah.
So he doesn't watch them anymore.
I I think you can like force him to, but I don't know how he ended up watching all those horror movies because my mom told me she was the one who really liked them, but she never had the time to because she was always doing laundry or dishes or whatever. And she would always just kind of listen to them in the background. But my dad is the one who'd like seek them out, but he's just a terrible horror movie fan. So I don't
How
know.
odd.
Maybe he's just got this masochistic streak.
Or
Probably.
maybe it's just a period that, he needed to
Maybe work through
yeah,
something.
work through something, yeah. So you avoid rape, you avoid torture, but everything else is pretty much fair game?
Yeah, I I have a pretty vivid imagination too. So I believe in like other dimensions or dimensions being layered on top of reality. I am religious in my own way, so demons, I don't like messing with that. Like I can watch stuff that, oh, exorcisms or paranormal whatever, but when people start joking about that stuff in real life, I'm like, don't do that.
What do you mean joking about it?
Like
Not taking it seriously?
I don't probably not taking it seriously. It's like when people are like, "Hey, I want to bring a Ouija board over." I'm like, "You stay away from my house, you psycho. You're not bringing that over."
Are you serious?
Yeah,
But you can watch movies about it?
yeah, because
Because there's so
I
many
don't feel
movies
like that's,
with demons and Ouija boards, not to mention one of the most famous of all time, The Exorcist, of course.
yeah, I don't feel like that's bringing it into my home because it is staged, it is false, and I don't know. I think there's a difference between something palpable with energy or whatever and
Hmm.
be a crazy hippie. It's okay.
Oh,
I
interesting.
just don't want that. Like, I believe in doorways and stupid people opening doorways without realizing it, and I don't want that anywhere near me.
Wait, you mean doorways into another dimension or another world or another
Yeah,
layer of reality?
yeah.
Oh wow.
So
I had
to
no
me,
idea. I had no idea that uh, that was part of your belief system.
yeah, I'm weird.
But it's not part of it's not, you're not officially part of any particular church or anything. You said it's your own kind of religious views.
Yeah, like the whole dimensions or whatever. That's my own. Like from reading a lot of Carl Sagan and you know stuff like that. I'm like, oh, I could totally see that, and like string theory and
But all of that is profoundly anti.
Religion.
religion, and
Yes.
it's all based in, theoretical, mathematical, and physics and everything. Those people have no use for the supernatural.
I'm a weird
But
contradictory
you're
kind.
you're mixing. That's interesting. So, I mean, did you ever find out what the grandmother dream was about? Have you been
Uh,
able to figure out what any of those symbols were, or what they might mean, or what you were dealing with? You're so young at that point. It's like,
yeah,
what could?
I couldn't even guess because my I still talk to that grandma on that side
Oh,
of the
good.
family, and she's still very loving and
Yeah.
kind. I never knew her that well growing up, so maybe it could be like the idea of a stranger in my own family or
Hmm.
like feeling threatened by her for some reason. I couldn't even begin to guess, like it was so long ago.
Yeah. But
But
it really stayed with you.
yeah,
So, the first horror movie that you got all the way through.
that would have been Sleepy Hollow.
Okay. Right.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. So that scared you, but it didn't traumatize you.
no,
And how old were you?
like 8 or 9 probably.
So, do you still like those kind of movies that are more, I don't know, historical or more,
Oh yeah,
I don't want to say fairy tale, but what would you call that? Like, it's like a morality. What
sure.
would you call Sleepy Hollow?
I guess Sleepy Hollow is almost fairy tale, like a
Yeah.
fable, maybe. Like
Fable. Yeah.
supposed to learn something from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still pretty open about all the movies that I'd be willing to try, and I like anything that's based in history. I'm a history nerd, so um, I guess anything that has its own system of rules that it consistently follows. Like
Well,
that's probably why I like sci-fi a lot too.
oh,
Like,
I was going to say with the multiple realities and
yeah,
Carl Sagan and stuff.
I
So
find
you
that.
do sci-fi too.
Yeah,
Um, but it sounds like that your interests aren't in anything particularly dark. Where does I mean,
I I can't even guess where it came from, other than I liked being scared. Um, and I just have a fascination with like the macabre. In high school, I used to draw a lot of dark stuff that would make my teachers question me and my
oh,
parents
really? Were
question
you a
me.
goth? Were you like, did you have black
I
fingernails and
was.
stuff? You
I,
were.
I have combat boots that come up to my knees
Oh,
still. I had
wow.
goggles. I wore a lot of black eyeliner.
Goggles? What do you mean goggles?
Like steampunk goggles, I
Are
have
you
some.
you wore them to school?
Yeah.
That is so cool. I had no idea.
I got
So,
called Nazi.
oh
I feel like that
wow.
wasn't very creative. I
What
feel like,
the calling you Nazi, the insult of
yeah.
Nazi?
I'm like,
Did you have were there other friends that you had that were like that into the same stuff?
more or less, I don't know, I always tried to be different or whatever, but we all had similar tastes, like,
Mm.
oh, the dark makeup, the dark clothes,
Oh wow, I had
really the
no
hot
idea you were a former goth, a recovering goth.
recovering.
That's anybody seeing you as a lifeguard at the pool wouldn't dream in a million years, but I mean, that's what happens when you're a teenager, you go through
Yeah,
phases and looks and you follow your interests in particular ways that don't necessarily you wouldn't necessarily know later in life or somebody looking at you. You're not wearing your interests on your sleeve as an adult the
right.
way you would, yeah, the way literally. That's so cool. So you were watching horror movies all from then up until the present.
Yeah.
What was the last movie you saw that really upset you?
Oh man, I have to think about that.
Knowing that you avoid certain things, but even of the things you've seen, uh,
Hmm.
that you
Uh,
saw all the way through, I guess.
the one that's popping up in my head right now was probably about 3 or 4 years ago. It was some Redbox movie we picked up, and it was called Four Horsemen, and it had Dennis Quaid in it. I want to
Oh,
say. Um,
well, that's kind of scary in and of itself. Poor Dennis. Oh no, no,
Dennis
Dennis
Quaid.
is the cool one. Randy's the one who's lost his. Oh God, poor Randy. Anyway, sorry.
No, it's okay. It was because the premise of it sounded super cool. That's part of my problem is I pick up movies that sound great, and then it doesn't usually play out that way. And it was supposed to be like, oh, in this small town, all these murders are happening, and they're themed like the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, I guess. So like pestilence and war and famine. whatever.
It's just a ripoff of Seven, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, not as good ripoff of Seven because
Yeah.
Seven was great. Um, and later you find out it's like a group of kids over the internet who are doing this and recording themselves doing it. It was weird, but what I couldn't take was there was a lot of visual stuff like Dennis Quaid's son. He finds out his son's involved in this, and I guess
Spoiler
it's
alert for anybody watching for Four
yeah.
Horsemen.
I don't watch it anyways.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. His son is, I guess, coming out that he was gay and he felt like he wasn't being accepted. So he basically like sacrifices himself in front of his dad and forces his dad to watch as he like cuts open his chest with like a electric saw blade or something.
Does he die?
I think supposedly they got medical help to him in time, but he was like about to die.
Well, what a
There,
great image for coming out for
yeah,
all
it
the young
was
gay people out there.
horrible. Like there was a bunch of stuff like that, like some adopted child who's jealous of her foster mom being pregnant, so she like aborted the baby and kept it in a bag. Like it was just
So really nasty stuff is what you're saying.
yeah, it was literally just for shock value. Like there was no good story, no good character development. It was pointless.
Yeah.
And that I had to turn off. Like, nope, I'm done with this. This is too much.
That's interesting though that it sounds like a higher budget deal if they have I don't know, Dennis Quaid isn't a huge star, but he's a named
Yeah, he's
actor.
named it's recognizable.
Yeah, yeah, that's oof, that's yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah,
So what have you seen because we're talking about I Saw the Devil next. Have you seen it yet?
I haven't yet. I was
Okay.
maybe gonna watch it tonight or tomorrow.
Have you seen any Korean police thriller type stuff before?
I didn't know that was a genre.
Yeah, it turns out it's a huge genre now that I've started to look into it. This is considered, I think, one of the better of that genre, but it's a huge genre, mostly there
Mhm.
in Asia. I don't know how many we get. I don't think, not that many of them are officially released out here, but did you see Martyrs?
No, I didn't. I know Monica was talking about it, and you
Yeah.
were talking about it.
Yeah, because these are the more extreme things that I can think of that are out that are recent. I know there's bad extreme stuff, but I'm thinking of like extreme stuff that's actually interesting or good, and
Yeah.
I'm just curious to know if that's something you're willing to put yourself through, knowing it sounds to me like the quality of the film or the purpose of the gore has or the violence is important to you.
Yeah,
If it's just
definitely.
for its own sake, that's not something you're willing to kind of put yourself through. Whereas
Yeah.
Brady, that's all I think that's all he likes, or
He
films
just likes gore for the
where
purpose
the gore is just for gore's sake. I mean, he
like
can appreciate a good film, but he definitely
yeah.
seems to have a hankering for the ones where the people, the filmmakers don't necessarily know what they're doing or don't know how to make everything. It's really funny.
So like I saw one of the more recent remakes of The Evil Dead probably about a year or two ago.
Hmm.
There was so much gore in that, but it was all makeup, and I
Mm.
found that fascinating. Like none of
Mm.
it was CGI or faked.
Uh,
And there's a part where a girl is getting her leg cut into with a chainsaw, and another girl is cutting off her own arm with like an
oh,
electric turkey carver.
oh God.
And it's just so well done that even though it was disgusting, I was like, I can appreciate this.
Right,
Like,
right. Which
this
is
is
what, but
artistry.
that's what the original Evil Dead kind of was. It was like,
Yeah, that's true.
it was really about a bunch of tricks. Like,
It's like campy and
yeah, it never really, it seems like it never really asked you to take it very seriously.
yeah, exactly.
More of a thrill ride. Is that what the remake was doing, or was it? It sounds like it was a bit more visceral because I haven't
It
seen the remake. God, they
it was
remade
funny because it
everything.
almost seemed like it was trying to take itself more
More
seriously, but I because I'm not super familiar with the Evil Dead universe, my friends picked up on a lot of tongue-in-cheek stuff that I didn't
oh,
notice.
references to the
Yeah,
former films and stuff like. Oh, okay,
and
yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, that
So
actually makes
it's even funnier than maybe you even realized.
probably
Oh,
yeah.
interesting. What was the last horror movie you saw that really enthralled you, or really?
Crimson Peak.
Oh, really? You really liked it, huh?
I'm trying to make everyone I know watch this movie.
So, are you angry when the film when you turned off Four Horsemen or if there's needless rape or something? Is it do you get angry or do you just get Does the imagery actually upset you, or
I think it depends. Like, I could see, especially with rape. Rape just always makes me angry. So, like, whether it's needed or not for the story, it makes me angry. But most of the time, it's just disappointment. Like, I
that's
feel like
yeah,
if this wasn't necessary, why is it here?
right,
This could be so much more concise or more
right,
poignant or whatever. And it just seems like most of the time it's for shock value, and that feels cheap to me.
yeah.
Like it's the same as like jump scares. It's like that was cheap. Like really, you couldn't just create some other
It's
psychological suspense.
it's a failure
So
of the imagination. I feel like
yeah,
it's lowest. Yeah, that's interesting. Disappointment. That's a healthy response because then you don't get worked up the way I do. Angry. It's more like, what a shame that they couldn't do any better than
yeah.
that. You know,
Like
that's
oh well, that was lame.
yeah.
Okay, on next good movie that's going to be better than this.
Right, right. The more, yeah, interesting. Well, yeah. So I basically just wanted to kind of find out where everybody's sort of baseline
Yeah.
fears were, so I can manipulate them later. No,
Oh great.
so we can get just so people can talk about what those early things were. So water still is a thing for you. Drowning is still a thing for you.
In closed spaces, yes. Like as far as the idea of drowning in a pool, that's just ridiculous to me. Because I can swim really well, so it's
Right.
like it's not going to happen. But the idea of being trapped somewhere and then there's water, I don't know why that still gets to me, but it does.
It is creepy. So submarine movies, or because at any point, usually in a submarine movie, that's going to happen at some point. That would be
Okay,
more disturbing to you than a horror movie, or does it
probably.
have to be more in a horror movie context?
It doesn't have to be a horror movie context. Like what was it, Poseidon?
Oh, the Poseidon Adventure is classic. Yeah,
That got to me like
yeah.
those scenes where people and Titanic, like I still have a hard time watching the scene when the ship's going down, like as
Oh,
they're rushing
yeah,
through hallways that are filling with water. I'm like,
yeah.
screw that noise, I'm out.
Oh, you did. You couldn't get through it.
No, I could get through it. It's just it's almost as bad as the same visceral reaction from me as somebody being tortured where I almost have to turn away like this is hard to
Wow.
watch.
If
I
the
don't know.
torture, the thing about Martyrs is the reason why we bring it up is that's a film that could fit into the torture porn market or label, and it could also be, it's considered part of the French New Extremity, which are these French films that they take things really extreme in terms of violence, in terms of um, it's different from torture porn, but there's some overlap. Um, but because the torture there seems to have a purpose, it really challenges you to say, well, is this just for sensation, or is this leading to something that's bigger? And I think most people are convinced that well, I'm convinced, and the people I've spoken with are convinced that that's a case where the extremity of the violence is for a larger purpose. So I'd be really interested to hear what you would have to say about
Martyrs.
about that movie
Okay.
particularly, because it seems like it's really tough. It's hard, but I feel like it has a integrity to it, that
Hmm.
it isn't that it needs to do what it's doing in order to make the points or get to the place where it needs to get. So I'd be interested to hear what you would have to say about that, because you haven't seen anything super intense or gory or tortury in a while, right? I mean, it's not
Yeah.
on your menu. It's not a regular thing for you, right?
I try to shy away from it unless people really recommend it.
Yeah, yeah. Because I know, like I said, Brady has no like clearly he says he'll watch anything, um, and um, and I know Crystal's taste can get very extreme.
Hmm.
Um, Part of her taste. I know that she's got a wide variety of tastes, but and I Saw the Devil is really intense, so I should warn you, it's
I'll
not an easy
get some
watch.
more of this.
It's not an easy watch, but that's the question is going to be is the extremity this is a perfect example of, is the extremity for a larger purpose, or is it just there to
Yeah,
mess
is a
with you?
payoff.
Is it just like to get that kick of gore, to get that kick of nastiness? And I'm so ambivalent. I mean, Crystal's had a real effect on me where, maybe, how can, it's hard to be a horror movie fan and say, oh, well, it can't be nasty or mean spirited or for the sake of it, because that's kind of part of the
what it's exactly.
genre, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, where's the line? Everybody's line is so different, you know. If there was a sci-fi movie that you would have us all watch, what would it be? What's your like ultimate? Is there
Oh,
an ultimate?
I don't know. I'm just kind of a budding nerd into the
Oh,
sci-fi
really?
area, so I mean,
What's
I'm a huge Doctor Who fan,
mm,
Firefly, and all that.
right?
So I'm not sure if I have anything eclectic enough where you guys wouldn't have heard of it.
Well, give it a try. What happened? What's made the biggest impression on you so far of everything you've seen, sci-fi
Oh,
wise? And of course, there's the sci-fi horror thing, which then it gets really complicated, right?
yeah. I can't think of anything at this point in time. I mean, back when the Sci-Fi Channel, when I had cable, I used to watch that all the time, like the terrible B-rated sci-fi movies. But it's been so long, I don't.
And
The only thing I can think of.
you're in school, you're busy and working too. You're busy with so much stuff. You're not going to be sitting around just watching movies.
I'd much rather do that though.
I don't
I could
think that.
drop out of school, watch movies. It's cool.
No, you don't want to do that. Believe me, you don't want to do that. There's always time for that. Well, what about what would you consider alien horror or sci-fi? I mean, I know you've seen that, right?
Uh, I I'm not sure I would consider it horror. Maybe more like
Really?
suspense. Yeah, I could see suspense and
Oh, that's
sci-fi going together hand in hand, but
that's interesting. You wouldn't consider Alien even with like the chest bursting and the monstrousness of the alien. Like some people would say it's a monster films, but suspense is interesting. You could say it's a thriller. Some have
I
called
guess I
it.
didn't think of the body horror that would be
There
involved
is,
in that.
yeah, yeah. You
So,
definitely got the body horror stuff and the.
so that would probably fit in there too. I guess it would be horror then. It's just it would be more of
But
an
you wouldn't think of it
outline.
as sci-fi. There's not enough. There's not enough science in it.
my my thing that mainly draws me to sci-fi is what you brought up before, establishing a certain set of rules and then making things work within that universe that you
Yeah.
establish and making things make sense even if there's nowhere for regular logic
Right.
the way we think of it. That's what fascinates me. So unless there's a lot of that, I guess I don't it wouldn't be like my top idea of sci-fi. But
Interesting. So what movie have you seen or movies have you seen that are your favorite that do what you just described? Or TV shows? Is that would you say Firefly or would you say Doctor
yeah,
Who?
I think Doctor Who's just constantly breaking their own
Right,
rules. So
right.
I
They have
don't know
it
if it
built in
counts.
that they can do that, right?
Yeah. Firefly is pretty good at doing that from what I remember.
What
They
about any movies that you can think of?
It's dumb. The only thing I can think of right now is an anime in my head. And I'm like,
Oh, you watch
uh,
anime.
yeah.
That's a part of your oh, okay, that's like a whole nother thing. And that does that.
Yeah, it's this anime called Death Note that a lot of the teeny boppers are into, but it definitely sets up its own set of rules for the universe, and the main character is running from the law constantly, and he does some interesting things to avoid detection that
Hmm.
it doesn't cross that line into disbelief, or it goes into where you can have the suspense of disbelief long enough for it to achieve what it wants to achieve, and it stays interesting. It's the whole premise is that there's another world of beings that control the deaths of humans, and they do
Oh.
it by writing in books called death notes.
Oh, interesting.
And so they can write the name and when they want the person to die and how they want the person to die. And one of those gods or whatever makes a mistake and a book falls to earth, and this like sadistic kid finds it, and he starts playing with it and figuring what he can do and how he can manipulate people with it. So
Oh, wow. No, this is a series. Well, thank you, Kenda. It's great to see you, at least on
oh
video if I don't see you in person. And
yeah,
hopefully at the next conversation. Are you going to be able to make it for the next call?
I'm planning on it. Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Good.
I'm not gonna watch this movie for nothing. Especially
Yeah. Yeah.
if it's super intense.
It's pretty hardcore. Although, yeah. I mean, that's my memory of it, but I need to watch it again and we'll see how my reaction is. But
Cool.
all
Well,
right.
hopefully I will talk to you then.
Yeah. And maybe I'll see you before then.
Yeah. so it should be good.
All right, hang in there, and I'll see you soon. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right.
Well, have
Thanks.
a good night.
You too.
Yeah.
Bye. You good?